So that takes us to the end of the initial treatment journey, which was early to mid last year, 2021. That's when we met in April, where you were still in the last 4 months of recovering from your infection. Can you explain to everyone why the infection meant you couldn't start prosthetic use, or what a prosthetic is, the implications of the infection, that sort of thing?
Well, the type of prosthetic that I've got to use is one that wraps around my waist. So it's a socket that is partially, I have to sit into it. It's almost like sitting into a bucket on one side. And then it's strapped on. It's made of carbon fibre, and they're pretty uncomfortable.
Yes.
And all my nerves, especially from the infection, were triggering, and I was extremely sensitive. So on top of the amputation, that's one thing, because I'm also sitting on my sciatic nerve.
Yes.
And I'm, and all the other nerves that we're trying to rewire, that's the word. In my case, because of the infection and the debridements and the way that I was healing from internally to out, outside the this wound healing that I had to do, I couldn't put any pressure, let alone sit down, lie down. Any vibration from walking would hurt me. Really, I was on some medication as well, and that makes you a little bit, wonky when you stand up. So that's the real reason why I couldn't use it, because I also had tubes and whatnot, so you can't, encapsulate, I suppose. That's the way I would say it, inside the socket.
To make people understand a bit more of the challenges, the socket's really hard. You can put your knuckle on it and it makes this really hollow sound. It's carbon fiber. And so when you have a really sensitive area, which has pain at the area from the infection, you have sensation or nerve pain from the sciatic nerve, which is wrapping in a different way. And you also have phantom pain. There's 3 types of pain you're navigating, and different medications that are acting in different ways that make you feel a little bit dizzy or woozy.
That's right.
Not energized. All these things combined, and they're all getting triggered by the pressure of putting your residual area on this very hard bucket, is a good way to describe what the shape is like. Once that started to heal, talk me through about how you desensitize the area, how the journeys with your different sockets.
Oh, that came late last year because you're so swollen as well. They make your first socket and then I put it on, and then I shrunk, and then I kept shrinking. So I think to get to my first ever carbon socket, I think this is number 7 or number 8. I actually lost count. So I think I got this in early February. So from September to early Feb. All that time in the checks, what they call check sockets. And, all sorts of things, like sometimes I make them too high, then you've got to bring them low. So you can sit and bend in them. Everyone is different. And that's the unique thing, how many hours. I was told that it takes about 60 hours to make a socket for someone. I think I surpassed that. I went hours over it. They've been really good with me.
The thing that lots of people don't know about prosthetics is they assume there's a robot or there's a computer in the joints that are moving the prosthetic leg for you. The check sockets are almost like training wheels. They're hard. They don't bend well. They don't have micro core processes within the joint or the knee joint. Talk me through the difference between transferring.
The thing is, when I saw someone and they came to visit me with a prosthetic leg, I just thought, it does it for you. And that's what a lot of people think. That's what I thought. It is robotic. That's what I thought. But you got to actually do a lot of work. And I think what those stats were, that it's 125% more energy if you're a hip disartic or a hemipulvectomy. 125% more energy. Whereas below knee can be anywhere between 9 and 64 or something like that, depending on the foot. And above, transfemoral amputees are in the 65%, more energy, depending on how high up, and it can be quite hard for them as well.
Yes.
But this really isn't easy, so not happy that I lost that hip.
Yes.
And not at all. I mean, I'm grateful, but not happy that about that part of it.
I guess some quick facts about mobilizing with a prosthetic, especially hip disarticulation, is we know obviously the more joints you lose, the less muscle power, the less momentum arms you have to leverage off the prosthetic. So instead of having a femur to hinge off, you have to almost rotate and flick your pelvis to let the momentum come through, let the leg lock out.
Yeah, that's right.
So there is a very large physical aspect of the rehab before you can even start ambulating with the prosthetic.
And that's your core muscles and your back muscles, but that stomach really needs to work hard. Like I'm getting pretty strong there, and you need it.
Exactly. At the start, when you started ambulating with it, when we first met, you had neck, elbow, shoulder, overuse injuries through the upper body because you were using forearm supporters, four-wheel walkers, bilateral crutches, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Can you talk us through the other parts of injuries or rehab that most people wouldn't think about your elbow, your overuse injuries?
Yeah. As I became a crutch user, and I still do use crutches, especially around the house when I take the leg off, it's definitely forearm and elbow issues. In the beginning, the shoulders were really painful because of constantly using forearm crutches, and you're jarring your shoulders. I don't get that sort of problem anymore because I think I've got these huge muscles up here.
We've built them up.
We've built those up. And of course my wrist, and I was also getting trigger fingers, exactly the same fingers on both sides, which I thought was kind of amusing. Every morning, you've got these trigger fingers and your wrist, but one wrist was annoying me more than the other. Yes. And that, as you know, I was wearing a wrist brace. And that helped, that took the load off. But, you're not going to be injury free. Somewhere along the line, my left knee might go, my left hip could go. I may do something to my shoulders. Which, talk about shoulder now. I've already done something to my shoulder at the moment. So, it's just going to be constant. You've got to constantly work on yourself, probably harder than most people realise.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, from a physio or rehab perspective, what we focused on a lot in the early days was preventing injury in the shoulders, the elbows, the wrist, and that's through modifying positions, teaching you about load management, modifying the different aids to be able to pace yourself, to have the crutches some days, the walker the other days, knowing how to do things more safely.
I really needed to move on. And I mean, it gets to a point too that you've got to leave the hospital rehab.
Yes.
And you've got to go and find the right physiotherapist out there as well for your condition. And you can find them.
Yes.
And I'm really grateful I found you, and I'm really grateful I found the Pilates that I got into as well. And Kathy's brilliant as well. So I would probably say once you move into a program for strength, rather than stretching and this I'm quite a flexible person.
Yes.
And then the more flexibility I found that I was doing, the more my joints were coming in and out. So that's the only way I can explain it. But with strength, that is more important for me than being super flexible. Because this sort of conditioning that you've got to do to use a prosthetic at such a high level, amputation really requires it. And I would probably say that for most injuries as well. Yes, I know there are things where people have got different sort of muscle issues, but for me,
Yeah.
I really needed the strength to come first.
Yeah. Well, from a physio perspective, we know this leg weighs around 7 kilos, and you are sucked in tight into this socket. But the only thing keeping you nice and tight into the socket is the combination of the straps, but your core control, being able to hold yourself in. And by working on your strength, that's how we create the pressure, the tension to be able to leverage through the prosthetic, rather than initially when you felt like your joints were hypermobile or loose. The prosthetic would literally create space and gapping through the pelvis and through your lumbar spine even. So that's where the strength comes into it. We work very closely with the Pilates team, as well as Kathy, who's at APC Prosthetics, and she helps with your gait training, but it's definitely a team effort.
It's a team. I've got a big team behind me, actually. Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more?
Yeah, I mean, it goes from, like obviously the exercise side of things, which I just wanted to say, follow on with something. One of the big things I find with exercise is I've always been the type of person that exercised even before this, but it gets you to the point of feeling uncomfortable. Well, this is very uncomfortable to wear.
Yes.
So that discomfort, I couldn't sit in this for more than 10 minutes. At the beginning, or walk in it for 5 or 10 minutes, and then I had to build up. Now I can wear it 6 hours.
Yeah.
So that's really big, considering it's not even a year.
Yeah.
And for the amount of pain that I was going through, that is incredible. So I would probably say exercise and everything has helped me deal with it.
Yes.
But the other thing that's helped me too is I am seeing a psychologist who's a pain psychologist, and he's got like more than over 30 years experience working with amputees.
Yeah.
So he's been able to help me approach things differently. It's like, this is all normal, this is normal. Everyone is different, and he sees a lot of trauma patients as well, and those with PTS as well. And because it has taken a lot out of me.
Yeah.
Like I say, if you interviewed me in 2020, you'd be seeing a different Anne.
Totally.
The Anne that I am now is probably more normal.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm more myself.
Yes.
And it's taken a long time to get there. Even at the end of last year, I wasn't all there. I don't think I was. So,
I think something that we talk about a lot in the physio world is the biopsychosocial approach to health, and this rehab journey is no different. That there's the biological side, the physical side, there's the psychosocial, there's the mental health side, and then there's the social side, like what Anne does for fun, hobbies, family, the painting, all that sort of stuff.
There's more to me than this. But, like on my Instagram, for example, people just see me just exercising. Yeah. Is that all you do?
Yes.
No, there's more to me than that. So, and there's only a few people that actually really know me well. Yeah. So that's it. Yeah, I can be really tough on myself, but that's good in one way. Yeah. But I don't give myself a break.
No, there's that determined self that comes out. And
that's me.
All those doctors that said you would be walking 100 metres in that prosthetic.
And I can do 3 kilometres.
3 kilometres, yeah. And you've only been in this leg for a couple months.
This has now been since
February?
I'd probably say that in January. Yeah, it's really not until you actually get that proper socket on, because it doesn't matter how elaborate the leg is.
Yes.
If you've got a G-nim or a C-leg 4, or you've got, all these, helix hips, and, this is all in the prosthetic world language.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. If that socket's not fitting right, you cannot walk.
Yes.
You cannot sit. You cannot do anything.
Yeah. Can you tell us about the big milestone that happened at the start of the year? That was your big driver to making the prosthetic, make yourself walk. What
it was
happened?
Definitely my son and daughter-in-law's wedding in January. That was my driver.
Yeah.
Having sarcoma, you're still being scanned, every 6 months now. alternating scans and PET scans and CT lung scans and MRIs and all of that. And of course, yes, you get scan anxiety and you've got to cope with that. And that's why, you know, the psychologist can help me work through those feelings and go through that. And then you've got the exercise, you know, having all the endorphins and that makes me happy and able to cope with things. So it's a journey. It's still a journey. Still a journey.
You've also met
Not
a
out
couple.
of it yet.
Yes, no. You've also met a couple of fellow amputees who have got similar experiences, and you talk to them a fair bit.
And that's been helpful because they're quite unique. Very, very unique. I've had some funny things happen, you know, like outside as well, you know, meeting people. I don't really appreciate, you know, people who I do not know asking me how I lost my leg. I don't mind sharing it, you know, that's why I'm doing this. But, you know, I'm going to buy a coffee, you know, it's not the time to go and ask me how I lost something because it actually is quite traumatic, and I don't think people really understand that, how traumatic it is. And then I've had other funny things happen when I was up in Noosa with my husband, and I was at the beach, and I had my crutches with me because I wasn't going to bring this leg to the beach because you can't get sand in it and everything. Because it serves no function except walk. If I'm sitting at the beach, I'm not going to wear it. Anyway, I was coming away from it, and then he says, "Oh wow!" He goes, "You're strong getting down with those crutches." I said, "Oh yeah, thank you." And that's when he asked, and he said, "Do you have a prostate?"
I do.
Back in the hotel. So there's some funny things. You try and bite your tongue.